Hi Saints, welcome back to my channel. I don't know if it's just me, but around a certain time of year, or not even just a certain time of year, like when you're feeling in a certain type of mood, there's certain films that you always go back to that's like your go-to, or that just feels right for a certain moment. I have so many of those films, but the same way that we have a lot of films, or at least me personally, the same way that I have a lot of films that I will always rewatch, that just are always perfect for a moment. There are certain films that, in my opinion, aren't perfect for any moment. Films that I've watched before that I will never watch again. When I wrote all of the films down, I tried to narrow it down to the films that I won't watch the most, but for like very weird reasons. Like, there are certain films that are on this list for today's video that I won't watch again, not necessarily because of the content, but because of the premise, because of how it made me feel during a certain moment, or just because or just because of the events surrounding that film, the environment I was in, and what happened, and just why I won't revisit it. And I just wanted to share it with you guys. If you guys have films like that, let me know, and let me know why. Because when a person tells you they would never rewatch a film, you always automatically assume it's because of the film in itself, and there's this element of curiosity, like, what is it about this film that genuinely makes this person feel like, this is something I never want to revisit again. But for me, it's a mixture of that as well as other contexts that I'm going to be providing you guys for today's video. I wrote down a brief 5 movies that we're just going to talk about for today's video. I kind of categorized it, or at least I listed it down from the most obvious reason why I won't watch this film down to the least obvious reason why I won't watch this film. Like, some of the movies on this list aren't necessarily terrifying, they aren't scary at all, but a lot of the reasons why I won't watch it is because of terrifying reasons. The very first video is Midsommar. I'm sure you guys probably already watched this film already. It's directed, written by Ari Aster, which my experiences with Ari Aster have never been good. I remember when I was younger, like way younger, there was a film circulating YouTube called The Strange Things About the Johnsons. If you guys remember that movie, it was freaking disgusting and traumatizing. I don't think I ever watched it in its entirety. I only watched clips and reactions from other people. But I remember when I was younger, it was always like you know how every group has this one thing where it's like, oh my god, I dare you guys to watch this, like the 2 girls 1 cup situation. Yeah, that was a situation going on in my middle school, no, high school. So that was kind of effed up. So Ari Aster has a very strange mind. I think we could all collectively agree that this man is disturbed. But his films has always managed to like seamlessly blend suspense, horror, but also like the strangest thing. The reasons why you're terrified about their films isn't necessarily because of there's a big monster, there's something under the bed. It's because this is messed up, but in the weirdest of ways. Like, it's not messed up on a surface level. It's very deep and it's very disturbing. It truly rattles you because you sit there and you're like, who would think of this? Who would do something like this? Like, whenever a film makes you really sit there and try to put yourself in that situation, or try to contextualize it into the real life and think about who would do something so messed up, it really fucks with you, because it's like you've taken something that's meant to be fictional, that's meant for entertainment, and you've managed to insert it into a person's personal life in the nastiest and the most disturbing way possible. So there's nothing, in my opinion, in films that are more chilling than that. And Ari Aster has managed to master that craft, and kudos to him. But also, I hope he has a very good therapist, and I hope his therapist has a therapist and also has a therapist. Anyways, I first watched Midsommar. I watched it, strangely enough, I watched it during the day, and the film in itself is a messed up film, but the reason why I don't think I can ever revisit it is because when I watched it, let's just say I was under a special type of influence when I was under a special type of influence when I watched this film. And the way it struck every chord within me, it was me and some of my friends. And I remember seeing so many trailers for this film. I was like, oh my god, this looks like a bright, sunny film. How are you going to turn this into a horror element? I have to say, before Ari Aster, I've never really seen something done like that, quite like that, outside of Jordan Peele. So like, I was really sitting there, I was like, how are you going to make something that involves flowers, that seems to involve a vacation, a getaway, something that seems to be so beautiful, and turn it into this psychological horror? And I watched it while under the influence, a special type of influence. And so my mind was already working way above any limit it had any business working on for this film. And I was tuned in on all of the details, the backgrounds, the subtle changes, and the creepiest scene. There are two scenes that really made me feel like I can never watch this film again. One, the scene where the two elders jump from the cliff and they fall and they're not quite dead yet and they have to get their head hammered in again. That scene messed me up in graphic detail. Like, I couldn't look away, but I just wanted to at the same time. I was so traumatized. And then there's the scene where the camera it seems to be like a first person perspective, and everyone at the table, all of these faces turn to the camera and they look at, I don't know who they are looking at for sure, but they look straight into the camera, dead into the camera, and there's this chilling soundtrack in the background. That really fucked me up. I had nightmares and terrors. It was during the day, I was sweating, I was having very intense nightmares for like a couple of days after that. It was literally around those two particular scenes. And ever since then, ever since it had that impact on me, like, I won't revisit it. Like, I've gotten to the point where it's better, where I'll probably watch people's in-depth analysis. I even did that to try to make me feel better, like seeing how people interpreted the film, little details they noticed, you know, because it's easier to kind of consume it that way. But in that moment, it was just guys, I was fucking terrified. And the nightmares that accompanied it just wasn't. I would never watch this film in its entirety ever again until after I've managed to work through it with a therapist. So that's the number one. Number two, there's this film called The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Now, a lot of people probably already know about this film. I know I don't know if I want to say generation, but like my age group in particular has really been traumatized by this film, I can say, because everybody was talking about it. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but there's few films that garner enough discussion within like young adults or like just teenagers in general, that it's like everybody is kind of telling you, have you checked this film out? This is the saddest movie I've ever watched. It wasn't that case necessarily that made me check out this film. It was just, I so happened to watch it around the same time as everyone else, and I realized I wasn't the only one that this film fucked up with. With good and bad films, with good and bad media in general, once you're done watching it, it makes you sit there and you feel so moved by a certain film that you want to discuss it. So you try to seek out other people who have watched it, see their opinion. You try to find solace or some type of consolation about what you just watched. You really try to find a little bit of closure, that element. And few films I can say for sure have made me research that much. It came out in 2008, and there was a resurgence of that film's popularity again around the same time I was in high school or middle school. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just gonna read the synopsis really quickly. During World War II, 8-year-old Bruno and his family leave Berlin to take up residence near the concentration camp where his father has just become commandant. Unhappy and lonely, he wanders out behind his house one day and finds Shmuel, a Jewish boy of his age. Through the barbed wire fence of the camp separates them, the boy began a forbidden friendship, oblivious to the real nature of their surroundings. The thing about this film that genuinely made me feel so unsettled. Like, it really put me through it emotionally, because I think it's the way they kind of narrated it through the perspective of someone so young and so innocent. Of course, there's a lot of Nazi Germany films, concentration camp films, slavery films that are just so incredibly traumatizing. But the way that I just sat there, watched a forbidden friendship unfold, and in the end was hoping for some type of, I don't know, happy ending, just to see both of these boys die, thinking, and the thing is, I think it's the innocence of it all that kind of ruined me, because you will do anything for your friend, and then to realize at the very end they finally got together, they're finally past the barbed fence, just to be put in a gas chamber with other men, with other prisoners, and to die that way. That ending scene, the way they filmed it, the way the sequence went down, and then the sudden realization that they're not making it out of this alive, it was just, I don't know, it really messed me up for a couple days. I just remember feeling so unsettled and sad. Like, you know, it's not that sadness that's temporary and past, the type of sadness that you can sit with, you can mull over. It's the type of sadness that kind of just consumes you, and you just wish you never watched the film to begin with, you know? I don't know why. I think perhaps how much I thought it would be a good ending, because the film, the context of the film, it's already so depressing enough. But you have this light, you have this hope in the form of their friendship, this beautiful innocence that just seems to be so untainted by the world, you know? And then is the only good thing about the film. And then they eliminate it in the most depressing way possible. I was like, I don't think I can watch this film again. I don't think I can watch this entire movie all the way through. And I think upon rewatch it might be even more depressing, because I know how it's going to end. So every moment where I see them laughing, where I see them finding some joy in such a fucked up situation, it will probably make me even more sad. This list goes on, and it starts getting less and less obvious the reasons why I won't watch this film. There's the movie Purge. The very first Purge, I don't think I'll ever watch again. And once again, I need to give context as to why. The Purge is a 2013 film directed by James DeMonco, and we all know what The Purge is about. During one night a year, during a 12-hour period, all crime is legal. And in the very first film, can I just say, this film in itself has terrible ratings. But I'm going to get into the reason why I don't want to watch this film ever again. Beyond the blaring sound of the Purge announcement, the horn that plays, it's just so disturbing to me. The very first Purge is about how James Sandin and his family face the ultimate test when an intruder drags the vicious outside world into their home. James, Mary, and their 2 children struggle to survive the night while trying not to turn into monsters like the ones they are striving to avoid. There's an innocent man being hunted down by participants of this purge, and he finds refuge in the home of this family, but they have to debate whether or not to let him out, because the people outside are going to kill him, but if they don't let him out, they're going to come inside their house and kill them. That's already an interesting premise on its own. The film in itself isn't terrifying, but everything surrounding it is what terrified me the most, because I watched this when I was in and out of a fever. And so at one point I thought it was a dream. I thought what I watched was actually a dream, or more so a nightmare. I remember watching this film, and it wasn't until after that I got scared, which is very weird for me. But I was watching it, and it wasn't that terrifying in itself, but thinking about it too much, and I overthink so much, thinking about it too much really unsettled me. All crime was legal, and I was thinking about the horrors of it all. I was thinking about the anxieties and stress of accidentally being caught outside during something like that, hearing the blaring sound of something that sounds so dystopian, a concept so incredibly inhumane and okay. And then I sat there and I was like, not only is this terrifying, knowing that help would never be available to you terrified me the most. And then I thought about it even deeper, and I was like, imagine having to live your life for an entire year, making sure you're not accidentally making someone angry because you know that one night of the year they can come for you. I remember thinking, like, this would impact the society deeper than just that one day. The slightest thing you could have done would all of a sudden be something you're held accountable for on that one night. And even if you're an innocent person who hasn't done anything at all, who probably hasn't even talked to anyone at all, who out there could be planning your demise? Coming in and out of a fever, feeling this already sense of weakness. I was just like, I can't imagine myself in that situation. I don't know, it kind of fucked up with me on like a psychological level, the concept of a purge and it happening. And I think the reason why this film in particular was the thing that set it off, because there's a whole show which I heard is better, and there's other movies, but this instance is such on a personal level. They don't take the premise on such a grand scale. They don't showcase that. They showcase the intimate elements of family debating whether or not to risk being killed in order to sacrifice another person, basically. On such an intimate level, on such a personal level, I could relate to it so much. And I remember thinking, there's no safe place. And to go into a person's home thinking, maybe I could wait it out. The time, just 12 hours, I could wait it out. And they're thinking, I might have to send you out there to get viciously butchered. Oh my God, I can't. It fucked up with me on so many levels, bro. And then I was thinking to myself, like, the people who are messed up in society, the way they would try to plan this out so intimately. You could put a person through so much in 12 hours. It was just a lot for me at that age. During that moment of high fever and delusion and overthinking, like, all the worst combinations possible came to mix together and fuck up with me during the duration of that film and a couple of days after. So I will never rewatch Purge. There's a trend in some of these films, some of these later films, in which there are things that I watched when I was very young. So there's this highly underrated Angelina Jolie films called Changeling that are based on true events. First of all, being based on true events when I was younger would always just fuck me up, because as a younger person, as a kid, essentially, I don't know why I keep saying younger, but like, I suppose it's because like younger for me is like 3 years ago. But as a kid in that moment, I couldn't really quite differentiate the difference between like it being something that's step by step entirely true events versus it's just a concept, an idea, certain things about it that are based on true events. Like, it's not the entirety of every detail that was based on true events. So I already went into this film already like, oh my God, this is based on true events. I'm already kind of terrified. But the concept of the film, the synopsis, I'm going to give a very quick synopsis. It says, in 1928, single mother Christine Collins arrives home to find her son Walter gone. 5 months later, her prayers are answered when Walter is found in Illinois, but to Kristen's horror, the boy who steps off this train is not her son. Authorities vehemently dispute Christine's claim, and her one ally is a clergyman who sees the case as his chance to expose corruption in the Los Angeles Police Department and government. Angelina Jolie plays this mom who loves her son so much, and her son disappears. And we kind of get two perspectives. We see a possible perspective of what her son is going through, as well as her perspective trying to find him. And then this new boy comes in. I don't know, the way it just felt, it just felt so creepy. This new boy that's supposed to play her son is living in her home, is wearing her son's clothes, but that's not her son. But everybody is telling her, this is your son, but you're a mom, you know what your son, who is your son and who isn't. Who is this boy? And it just felt so incredibly strange. She was meant to be this mother to this person when her actual son is gone, is missing. And then it's a sequence towards the end of the film. Granted, I haven't watched this again, so I only know it from how I perceived it when I was that age, so incredibly young. There's the sequence at the end of the film where we kind of see what's been happening to Walter. Walter has been kidnapped by this sadistic man who's presumably forcing him to help him gather these young boys and abuse them and then butcher them, like literally butcher them, like the same way you would butcher like an animal on a farm. And then the setting was like this weird dark farm looking area, and then this boy that's managed to survive is kind of given his testimony, and he's telling how Walter kind of helped him escape, but Walter got stuck on a fence. And then you see the man that kidnapped them with like, he has like the butcher's thing, like knife or whatever. No, it's not quite a knife. You know those things you use to chop wood? I don't know why the word is escaping me. I really don't want to revisit this. But he's standing there and Walter is having difficulty escaping. And Walter has yet to be found, but it's unknown whether or not he died or not. Gosh, it really fucked up with me, bro. Like, it fucked up with me, especially seeing the little boy being dragged into the room, knowing that he's going to be butchered, and the other boys that has been kidnapped in that corner just oh my god. I don't know, even just thinking about it, which is very rare. I've never, like, you know, and not a lot of people have really discussed this film. Like, I have yet to find proper closure for it. And you know what's so crazy? I watched this film when I was with my mom. Like, my mom was in the room, I remember distinctively, because she was on the couch and I was just kind of sitting on the carpet. Like, I was so immersed on this film for some reason. And I've never been put through so much stress in my life, and I was so terrified. And it was just, the portrayal was just so incredibly, I don't know, because I think it needs to be studied, because there are certain media that depict very graphic situations. Like, for example, Hannibal. I watch that series all the time. It's near and dear to my heart. I actually really like that series. I could watch it and not feel that same attachment, not feel that same fear and disturbance in my soul. But Changeling, for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's something in it, something in the way they built the atmosphere, something in the camera work that just feels so, I don't know. I don't know what it is about this film. It's just, it really creeps me out. Last but not least, and this one, I'm probably going to get clowned for this one. So recently, I found out that Monty Python and the Holy Grail is actually a comedy. This whole time, I thought it was a horror movie because of my experiences watching it when I was very young. First of all, it's a comedic send-up of the grim circumstances of Middle Ages as told through the story of King Arthur and framed by a modern-day murder investigation. When I watched this film, it was playing, I think my brother was watching it, and my household, it was a very dark time in my household. I remember that in particular. And me and my brother, we had kind of gone through, we watched all the films. And then Monty Python and the Holy Grail was like one of the last films we hadn't really watched. And he was watching it, and there's the background of my household and me trying to find solace in this film. For some reason, everything that occurred that was meant to be comedic was so frightening to me. But this one particular scene of the Black Knight, and he got his arm chopped off, but he was still going, and then he got his other arm chopped off, and then they chopped the legs, and then the blood was spewing, and then he was left in the forest, no arms, no legs, still talking. but in the dirt. It was just so traumatizing to me. For some reason, that scene kept replaying over and over in my head, but it just kept getting darker and creepier and creepier and creepier and creepier and creepier. Like, it's one of those things, like, it pops in my head out of nowhere. I'm like, and it really fucks with me. Like, it really traumatizes me. I had nightmares for days on end. I was just so terrified, like, to the point where I don't think I've ever visited it. And whenever it's gotten mentioned, I didn't even remember the name. So that I didn't know that this scene came from this film. I didn't remember that. And then recently I found out the name of this film. I did a little bit of research because I was curious. And it's really messing with me a little bit because I want to know why I can't watch it. Like, I can't watch it all the way through, even though I know it's a comedy. I know everything about it that's supposed to make this exact scene okay, but I just can't revisit it for some reason. So so yeah, guys, these are 5 films that I just refuse to revisit for one obscure reason or another, that just really fucked with me. As much as I have a lot of comfort films, I do have some films that have impacted me and made me really sit there and not want to be human. You ever sit there and you're like, oh my god, I wish I could shut my brain off, and I wish I could shut my feelings off, and I wish I could just be a ceiling fan real quick. Yeah, these are what some of these films have made me feel. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope it wasn't too dark or anything like that. Let me know some films that are like, because some of these films people watch for enjoyment, right? But I think it's always interesting to see how other people have interpreted certain films just based on experiences. Like, some films that people find lighthearted, other people find truly traumatizing, just based off their experience, just based on the type of person they are, and kind of the environment and context of when and why they're watching this film. So if you have any like films that are not a lot of people really had the same reactions towards as you, definitely let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to, but the next video, I think it's going to be an analysis of After 2. I think it's After We Collided or After We Fell. One of them is the sequel, and I'm going to watch it and make a video about it. I love you guys so much. I hope you're having an amazing day, evening or night, wherever you are. I hope the vibes are good. Bye, guys.